סוכה פרק ב' משנה ב' הסומך סוכתו בקרעי המיטה. Somebody who let's say, this is what he does. Let's translate first. The ones who build his sukkah on the headboard of the bed. You know, the beds have a headboard and a legboard. So the person decides, I'm going to put my bed over here. I'm going to use the headboard as one side of the sukkah. And then I'm going to, so the bed is over here. This is the headboard. And I'm going to build the sukkah over here. And one side is actually my bed. It's out of the sukkah. The wall. And the wall right now is out of the sukkah. Somech means he leans his sukkah on the headboard of the bed. I think that's the case. Let's see. So now when you're going to move the bed, the entire sukkah is going to move because you're moving the wall, as you move the bed. Or כשמזיזים את קרעי המיטה ממקומם, נופל הסכך מכל מקום. Or once you're going to move the bed, the entire schach is going to fall. Yeah, that's the case. That's the way you build the sukkah. So the question is that a kosher sukkah? So, mikol makom kshera hasukkah. Nevertheless, this kind of sukkah is kosher. You've got 3 things and a schach. Who told you to move? You don't have to move it. Even though a bed is something that you move. Is a movable thing. See, until now, we had what do you call it? We had a rule about the walls. What was the rules? That they has to be strong. Strong walls. Strong walls mean that they are going to stay there. A bed, by definition, is not something that stays. It's something that constantly moves. Mm-hmm. So even though a bed is something that constantly moves, yeah, and you use it as a third, it's still going to be kosher. Don't move it. Who told you to move it? I know it's something that moves usually, but don't move it.
אני חשבתי זה different case.
You thought that it was on top of the bed, everything?
No, this is your bed.
Uh-huh.
You know how the bed has post?
Uh-huh.
Post. So you take one of those posts and you tie it to the post of the sukkah, like this.
You think the bed is inside?
Okay.
Yeah. I think the bed is outside, but I'm not sure. You might be right. Yeah. I don't know why I think that way. I cannot tell you why I'm thinking that way.
No, because הוא מזיז את המיטה, כל הסוכה זזה.
Yeah. But
if it's only a wall, the sukkah is not
I'll tell you why I don't think that way so much. Because if the bed is inside, then there's no problem. You just move the sukkah. I think the problem is when the
sukkah is tied with the bed.
Yeah.
Together.
What's the problem? You move the
that's what he's saying. The sukkah, when you move the bed, it moves with the sukkah.
What would be the problem then? Why would you think it's not good?
שמזיזים את קרעי המיטה ממקומם, נופל הסכך מכל מקום. נופל הסכך רק.
Yeah.
למה רק הסכך נופל?
The schach is the main part of the sukkah. The walls are not what we say. The main part of the sukkah is the schach. Yeah. So once the schach is going to fall, you don't have a sukkah because it's something that is moved. So, and this is the problem is that a bed is something that you usually move. That's the point. You can let's say it both ways, inside and outside. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda says, אם אינה יכולה לעמוד בפני עצמה, so Rabbi Yehuda says, if the sukkah cannot stand without the bed, in other words, if the sukkah is not able to stand without the bed, אם הסוכה נסמכת כולה על קרעי, the sukkah is completely leaning on the headboard, for example, שאם מטלטלים את המיטה, that if you're going to move the sukkah, הסוכה מטלטלת עימה או הסכך נופל, either the sukkah is going to move with it, or the schach is going to fall, ונמצא שאין הסוכה יכולה לעמוד בפני עצמה. We found that the bed is a movable object, and once you move it, the sukkah falls down. So, and since the bed is made to be moved, you don't have a sukkah. Are we going to consider, even if you don't move the bed, you don't have the sukkah. Because the sukkah needs the bed, and the bed is a movable object. Yeah. שאין הסוכה יכולה לעמוד בפני עצמה, פסולה, then it's not good, the sukkah. רבי יהודה הולך לשיטתו, רבי יהודה goes according to his system, שהסוכה צריכה להיות דירת קבע. Again, this is דירת ארעי או דירת קבע? The first opinion says דירת ארעי. It has to be temporary. And temporary, you can move the sukkah. It's a temporary dwelling. דירת קבע means it cannot be moved. That's קבע. וזו והואיל ואינה קבועה. And this is since it is not permanent. Even a bed moves it. That's not called a permanent dwelling. If you move the bed, your whole house moves. That's not a dwelling. הרי היא פסולה. Then it's not kosher. יש מפרשים שרבי יהודה אינו בא לחלוק את תנא קמא. There are those who says Rabbi Yehuda doesn't come to disagree with תנא קמא, אלא לפרש את דבריו. He comes to explain his words. שלא אמר תנא קמא שהסוכה קשורה, אלא כשהיא נסמכה לעמודים נוספים. When did the תנא קמא says it's kosher? When even without the bed it would stand. But without...
If it's not standing, it's pursued.
That's right. באופן שהיא למיטה, in a manner that once you take the bed, תישאר הסוכה במקומה. You still have a sukkah, even though you took the bed. אבל אם היא נסמכת כרעי המיטה בלבד, but if the only thing that's holding it is the wall of the headboard of the bed, באופן שאינה יכולה לעמוד בפני עצמה, היא פסולה, then it is not kosher. Finished. So in other words, you're not allowed to use a vessel that you usually move as a side.
What if I take 4 people, I tell them, hey, you hold the poles here. 4 going.
Mm-hmm.
And they're holding me the poles. If they leave it, the sukkah fall down. But they stand there and they hold it.
You remember, wait. You remember we did it in Eruvin. Do you remember that we say in Eruvin, if you tie the Eved, or you tie the animal to the post, or you don't tie the animal to the post? There was a difference. If the Eruv, if the Lechi, for example, you tie and you use the donkey. Is the donkey tied to the post, or the donkey don't tie? I think it also relates over here.
Yes.
How are you going to look? Does he have to stay there? He doesn't have to stay there? I think that's also something to do with this. And it also has to do if you hold Dirat Keva or Dirat Arai.
Okay.
If you...
Dirat Arai, maybe it's okay.
Maybe it's okay. Dirat Keva, then it's not good. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that can happen. Yeah. Sukkah hameduvlelet. Sukkah that is meduvlelet. What is meduvlelet? Meduvlelet means, I think it's used also in modern Hebrew, that you have schach all over the place. The entire area is with a roof of greenery. The only problem is that it's not on the same level. In other words, let's say the 3 section, one is 10 meters, one third is 10 meters high, the second one is 8 meters high. The schach. The schach. Yeah.
Leaves.
Not different leaves. It's not. They not all sit on the roof. One sits right on the roof, one sits a little bit higher, and one sits a little higher. So when the sun now comes in on the side, it shines. The sun is completely shines on the ground. If you want to check how much shade there is no shade. There's no shade at all because the sun comes through the cracks in between it. So the question is that called a kosher sukkah? Okay? Sukkah מדובללת. בגמרא מפרשים מדובללת, המבולבלת. It's all up and down. כלומר, שאין ענפי הסכך מסודרים יפה זה על זה. They're not nicely on top of each other. אלא ענף עולה וענף יורד. One is high, one is low. ומתוך כך, and because they're on different levels, חמתה מרובה מצילתה. They have more sun than shade. אבל אילו היו מסודרים זה אצל זה, but if they were on the same level, all the things, הייתה צילתה מרובה, then it would have been kosher, there would be more shade. וכגון שאין בה ענף עולה וענף יורד 3 טפחים. And you're not allowed to have more than 3 טפחים from each other. Because otherwise they don't combine. They need to combine with each other. If they're more than 3 טפחים away from each other, they don't combine. Yeah? So as long as there are 3 טפחים here, 3 טפחים here, 3 טפחים here, the sun comes inside, so don't worry about it.
But how is it kosher if it's the light is more than the cell, than the shade?
Because you're going to consider the light and the shade when the sun is directly on top. And when the sun is directly on top, it is going to be. Yeah, even though in Israel the sun will never be directly on top. Yeah, in Israel the sun would never. It's always a little bit. It's only on the equator. It always comes around like this a little bit in Israel. Even then, you're never going to have more shade than sun. It says it's still kosher because we're going to look at it as if the sun at noon is directly at top, which is not. It's going to be a little bit of an angle. Like over here, the sun goes like this. It never goes like this. Yeah. ושצילתה מרובה מחמתה, וכן סוכה, שצילתה מרובה מחמתה, and any sukkah that the shade is more than the sun, אף על פי שהסכך שלה דליל וקלוש, even though it's, it's like a little bit over here, a little bit over here, I don't care. But if it's on top, there's going to be more shade, כשרה הסוכה. This sukkah is kosher. ויש מפרשים, המדובללת המדוללת. Some says, מדוללת. היינו שהסכך שלה דליל. You don't have enough. ולפי פירוש זה גורסים משנה כן תן סוכה מדובללת שצילתה בלא וו. And according to this it says a sukkah with a little bit of סכך that the shade הוא מרובה מחמתה, that has more shade than sun. כלומר שמדובר כאן בסוכה אחת שהסכך שלה קלוש. We're talking about one sukkah that has a little bit of סכך. אלא שמכל מקום צילתה מרובה מחמתה. But nevertheless it has more shade. Now the question is, it has more shade when? I'm not quite sure when he's talking about. Is it more shade when the sun is directly on top, or is it more shade when it's on the side? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. What happens if you put so much schach that it is just like, where you are, if you go to Africa, a lot of the roofs in Africa are made out of hay. You've seen those roofs made out of hay? Yeah, in Africa. So, is that kosher schach? Or, so what happens if you use that kind of kosher material? You don't have light at all. I mean, it's so much. Hameuve kemin bait. You put so much schach that it is as if you're sitting in a house. סוכה שהסכך של האהבה כן תקרת הבית. It is so thick, you can walk on top, אף על פי שאין הכוכבים נראים מתוכה, even though it's so thick that you can even see stars from it, still כשרה, it is still kosher. מכאן למדים אמנם, from here we learn, שלכתחילה ראוי שלא יהיה הסכך עבה ביותר. We learn that you should see the stars, but if you don't see the stars, not a problem. כדי שיהיו הכוכבים נראים מתוכה. If you're going to go to Borough Park in Sukkot, especially in Borough Park, they make the schach so thick that the kids run on it, on the top. You can't fall. So much schach is on top, you can walk on the roof. Yeah? And for those who ask, and what about the stars? So a guy comes once in a while, he takes a broomstick and he makes one hole. He says, here, you want to see the stars here. The rain will come in because it's anafim.
Why do they do it?
Well, that's the way, that's a custom. I don't know what the idea is.